everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you join me today for this animated explainer. We are about to take a magical paper craft style journey through a true classic, a story all about facing the great, big, scary unknown. It's a tale packed with spooky moments, giant dresses, super fluffy cats, and one seriously big adventure. But before we jump into the story, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Have you ever been completely lost and scared in a brand new place? You know, that spooky butterflies in your stomach feeling of being the new kid at school, or having to sleep in a dark, unfamiliar room where the shadows look just a little bit too jumpy? It's pretty scary, right? Well, that is exactly how the hero of our story is feeling today. So let's open up our storybook and turn straight to Chapter 1, Meet Ordinary Girl Jane. Hold on to your hats because this is going to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Okay, let's set the scene. Imagine stepping off a wooden coach into a totally unfamiliar place. Jane is incredibly anxious here, and wow, check out that giant, bright pink dress. She was totally expecting someone to meet her, to call out her name. But nobody is there. She's all by herself in this strange place, looking around nervously, just hoping someone is waiting for her. Now, a really cool thing about this story is how it's told. Our explainer today is based on what's called a first-person narrative. That basically means the character tells the story using the word I. And because of this, we get magic access to hear all of Jane's inner worries and hopes. It's literally like we can see comic book thought bubbles popping up right above her head. And those thought bubbles, they are about to get pretty frantic. Let's turn the page to Chapter 2, Stranded at the Inn, where Jane hits her first major roadblock. Jane is completely alone. There's no one to meet her, so she awkwardly has to ask a total stranger, a waiter at the inn, for help finding her way to a place called Thornfield. In her head, she's telling us that it's a really strange sensation for a young person to feel completely alone in the world, just cut adrift from every connection. She ends up waiting in a private room for a carriage that feels like it's taking forever to show up. As she waits, the excitement of her big adventure really starts to fade. In a dramatic, quiet whisper, she tells us, "All sorts of doubts and fears are troubling my thoughts." Even though she feels this glow of pride for being brave, there's a loud, beating throb of fear disturbing her. Will she make it? What in the world is waiting for her at the end of this trip? Those fears follow her right out the door, into Chapter 3, The Spooky Carriage Ride. Things are about to get a little bit mysterious and, honestly, very, very dark. Just think about how long and agonizing this trip was for her. First, she waits for half an hour all by herself. Then, she gets into this bumpy sort of car, and the driver tells her it's going to take an hour and a half. But because the roads are heavy with mud and the horses walking so slowly, that hour and a half stretches into 2 whole hours in the pitch-black, misty night. As she bumps along in the dark, another worried inner thought bubble pops up. She thinks, "I pray God Mrs. Fairfax may not turn out a second Mrs. Reed." She is absolutely terrified that her new boss at the end of this dark road is going to be mean, cold, and scary, just like someone from her past. Picture this dark, lonely carriage ride. The roads are muddy, the night is foggy and misty. As they finally get close to this giant house, she hears a spooky, low church bell tolling in the dark distance. It sets a super eerie, chilling mood, just as the carriage clashes through the giant iron gates of Thornfield. But wait, don't cover your eyes just yet. Let's move straight into Chapter 4, a surprisingly warm welcome. It is time for the big reveal, where the scary, dark unknown magically turns into something incredibly cozy. Think about this amazing contrast. At first, Jane stands in this dark, cold, square hall with high doors. It feels vault-like and totally eerie. But then, she's led into another room and surprise, there is a bright, warm, cozy, crackling fire. Instead of a cold, mean boss, sitting right there by the hearth is the neatest, sweetest elderly lady knitting a wonderful surprise. This sweet lady is Mrs. Fairfax, and she doesn't yell or act scary at all. Instead, she smiles brightly and says, "How do you do, my dear? I'm afraid you have had a tedious ride." She immediately treats Jane like a welcomed, honored visitor instead of just a worker. She takes Jane's shawl, unties her bonnet, and even offers her warm sandwiches. It's just the perfectly snug scene. They're having a cozy chat by the fire, and check out the fun details. Look down by Mrs. Fairfax's feet. There was a large, wonderfully fluffy cat sitting there so demurely. As they chat away, Mrs. Fairfax tells Jane all about her future pupil, a little girl named Adele. It turns out Mrs. Fairfax is just a tiny bit deaf, gets a little lonely in the big house during the winter, and is completely thrilled to have Jane's company. Sharing this friendly, happy chatter makes Jane's heart completely warm up. All those spooky fears from the dark carriage ride, poof, gone, melted away by the warm fire and a friendly smile. Which brings us right to the final chapter of our storybook explainer today. Chapter 5, Finding Where You Belong. Let's see how this very long, emotional day comes to a happy end. After her snack, Jane is shown to her room. And guess what? It's not a scary, giant, cold room at all. It's a cheerful little room with modern furniture and bright, happy blue chintz curtains. Sitting on her bed, Jane reflects on her incredible journey. All of her heavy physical fatigue and mental anxiety completely disappear. Her solitary room holds absolutely no fears tonight. She actually tells us through her joyful thoughts, "I was now at last in a safe haven." She sleeps soundly, and when she wakes up, bright sunshine is streaming into her bright little space. She feels weary from the travel, for sure, but totally content, perfectly safe, and wonderfully hopeful for her new life with her new friends. So the crucial takeaway here, our real value pick from the text, is this. Sometimes feeling lost is just the beginning of discovering where you truly belong. Jane had to brave the spooky unknown and feel totally adrift in order to find this wonderful, warm fire and a true home. And that brings us to the end of our amazing adventure with Jane today. I want to leave you with one big question to think about. Where is your safe haven when you feel scared or lost? Is it a cozy reading nook, your bedroom, or maybe just a giant hug from someone you love? Thank you so much for joining me on this fun explainer adventure. And remember, even the darkest carriage rides can lead to the brightest, coziest fires. See you next time.